bring in the meantime, though, Erica Payne, founder of the Agenda Project, and Mark Mattson, founder and CEO of Mattson Money. And Mark, I want to start with you and kind of focus back on the markets here for a second. Are the markets focused on deficit reduction? I mean, do they really care what the president is going to say 90 minutes from now?
I think they already know what the president is going to say. A little bit of tax, a little bit of reduction and spending, and a big tax increase somewhere to the mega rich and the wealthy who are destroying the country. I think that's the basic line you're going to get there. But the bottom line is, does that mean that the economy is going to get worse, and does that mean bad news for the market? We think it's a cost of capital story. And what that means is countries with far worse debt situations than ours, like France and the UK, over the last 70 years have had good equity returns. They've had in excess of 10%, actually higher returns than ours. So if we do have, if we don't eventually get this deficit in hand, it's bad for the country, but markets are extremely resilient. That doesn't necessarily mean long-term low returns.
Well, the long-term deficits are the issue here, Erica. I mean, do you think Washington is serious about cutting long-term deficits?
I don't think Washington is serious about much of anything, to be honest. If you look at some of the votes they've taken about, there was an F-15 engine that a whole bunch of Republicans said that they wanted to keep in place, and a whole bunch of Democrats said they wanted to leave in place, and even the Secretary of Defense says they don't want it. And so there are all of these things that people constantly just have little pork barrel projects. So I don't think that they're serious. I think Eric Cantor is ridiculous when he says that, he expects the president to lead. I mean, I think it's entirely appropriate for House Republicans to put out the budget that they want, and for Senate Democrats to put out the budget that they want. And there's not a lot of compromise there, and that's the president's role.
Well, but I'll tell you what, I want to go to Greg Jarrett on one point here, because we do expect him to address the military and defense spending in particular, right, when he addresses the country, Greg, and that does affect the market. If you look at Boeing, if you look at Northrop Grumman, those have been real nice stocks for investors, but this president is saying time to pull back on the military.
It is, and and there's going to be kickback on Capitol Hill among Republicans over that. But look, where's the president been? 2 months ago, he presented his budget. In it, there were no budget cuts. There were no entitlement reform. He utterly ignored his own debt commission. Suddenly now, only after Republicans have put forth their very bold plan and got pretty good marks for it, he has an epiphany. What he found out is that everybody was criticizing him for not leading but following, and now he's trying to play catch up.
And one thing he may do this afternoon, Mark Mattson, is to once again, and we believe he will talk about tax increases, and that's probably going to be, we're probably going to hear that term, the Bush tax cuts again, from this president. I mean, remember, we had a compromise earlier. Who knows what happens now that you've got basically panic time in Washington over deficits, Mark?
Hey, look, this can't be solved by raising taxes because it's human nature. Anyone that's ever gotten a raise knows it's easy to spend that plus more. But America also knows that if you're in a debt crisis, the first thing you do at home is you cut up the credit card and stop doing it. And that's exactly what we have to do in Washington if we're ever going to right this ship and make this the most prosperous country in the world again, which it can be.
Erica, is there a political area that the president can address, a politically charged area, where he can say we're going to cut it and he won't get pushback from either the Democrats or the Republicans? Is there one part of the government he can be safe with?
The president can't walk out the door without getting pushback from somebody, and that's a very natural part of our economy. I just want to, of our political discourse, I just want to disagree with Mark, though, because there are times when it is appropriate to spend money, and if a tree fell on my house and I needed to take out a loan to fix my roof, I'm certainly going to do that, and a tree fell on the house of the United States.
But you wouldn't ask your neighbor to pay for it. You'd do it yourself.
A tree fell on the house of the United States a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, we're still trying to fix that roof. And what has happened is that the people who have made 300% more than everybody else for the last 30 years, which is those 375,000 people who make more than $1 million, are paying lower taxes than they have paid in about the last 40 years. It's time for those people to step up, and there's a group of patriotic millionaires who have stepped forward, about 100 of them, and said that they want to pay more taxes. And so if somebody wants to go to patrioticmillionaires.com, they'll see about 100 top business leaders who are calling for their own taxes to be raised.
All right, guys, I have to let you both go, but I appreciate your participation today. Erica Payne, founder of the Agenda Project.
Thank
Mark
you.
Mattson, founder and CEO of Mattson Money.
Cheryl.
Folks, you want to stay with us.